Hello, my name is Andrea Powell, and this is my presentation on my assessment tool report. The assessment tool I chose to do a report on is called the Cloze Procedure. This is a strategy that was originally used to measure readability and comprehension of a passage. It can help develop students' vocabulary development by selecting a passage and then omitting or covering up words in a text. So then students are required to supply the missing words. The words can be removed either at a systematic pattern with every 5th, 6th, or 10th word, for example, being made. And this is an example of a piece of text that could be used in a closed reading procedure. Every 7th word has been replaced by a gap in this example. The original or correct words are as, and, girls, like. And these words may all be inferred from the local context. This strategy is useful not only for accurately measuring where a student is at in their reading skills, but it is helpful in giving students practice and teaching about the necessary skills for closed reading. It can be used for measuring students' comprehension, knowledge of semantic and syntactic clues, and ability to use context clues. It also helps students develop in their abilities to read critically and use context clues, extracting meaning to make predictions. More processing and skills are required for closed reading than for normal reading, but these skills can be taught and generalized to normal reading passages. The research that backs up the effectiveness of this strategy often mentioned the validity of closed procedure, the time effectiveness, and the way it reveals student knowledge on syntax and semantics, and it also improves reading skills. So it's a good way to measure and also to improve and develop reading skills that are required while completing the closed procedure. This strategy is effective in its validity. Gellert and Elbrow's study indicates that the closed measure has a stronger external validity than the standard question-answer comprehension measure. This means that closed comprehension may be a more desirable assessment in situations where external validity plays a role instead of question-answering comprehension. This assessment is also time effective. Gellert and Elbrow's study also suggested that a quick 10-minute closed comprehension test can be designed to match a more time-consuming 30-minute question-answering comprehension test in several important areas. A closed test can be developed to correlate closely with standard question-answering measure of reading comprehension and to provide results on par with a standard comprehension measure in terms of reliability and validity. So we're getting a lot more of a bang for our buck here with results that are comparable to an assessment that takes much longer time to complete. And this study also reveals student knowledge, so it's effective on helping us to see what knowledge our students have on syntax and semantics, which are language cue systems used during meaning construction. Cloze Procedure helps children to read critically and guide themselves through reading. Cloze applications conducted with stories along with expository texts play an important role in grasping words that are used in social studies, social science, and science lessons, as quoted by Gergen in his study. Closed reading is also a strategy that has been shown to be effective in improving student comprehension and the ability to use context cues and predict meaning. In a study to improve the ability to use context clues by 20% and also improve reading comprehension by 15%, along with 2 other objectives for the study, the Cloze procedure was used to try to meet all 4 objectives. In the end, 3 out of 4 objectives were met, and the 4th one was still contributing to the overall success of the program. And then both McGee and Raymond completed studies that seem to agree that Cloze procedure is effective in helping the reader go beyond reading the text to produce a word that fits into the context of the passage. McGee talks about how students must infer lexical markers found in texts, and these lexical markers are normally very easy to process when reading a normal passage. So closed reading forces them to go through a more thorough process to infer the markers. And McGee also states that through this processing, expressing relationships among words in the passage and the sentences may produce more elaborated and integrated sentence memories. So that in turn is what facilitates the comprehension of closed passages more than normal passages would. And then Raymond goes on sort of agreeing with what McGee said by writing that the Cloze procedure requires a search of distribution of elements for the missing element. So they're trying to use a wide set of context clues to reconstruct their understanding based on those context clues. So they're using all of the clues that they can get out of that passage. Raymond also states that this reconstruction is at a more conscious level than in a normal reading passage and could help create awareness of syntax and meaning. So the strengths that can be found for using this strategy in the classroom include the fact that it is a flexible strategy. It can be used to evaluate and can even be modified while we evaluate. We can adjust our standards from rigid standards, only accepting exactly the right word that we have predetermined to be the correct acceptable answer, to also accepting meaningful guesses even if it's not 100% accurate. So it's depending on what we're trying to measure in each circumstance. It can also be used to develop reading strategies and allow for practice by bringing attention to the fact that we're using context clues and introducing our students to a thorough process as they read can really allow for teachable moments and really give them a lot of practice for when they're reading a normal passage. So then they've got those skills that can be generalized over to normal reading passages. It's also might be a great way to integrate reading into other subjects when introducing new ideas and topics. Students enjoy solving puzzles, and it could really be presented in a fun and creative way. Another strength is that it's time effective. The preparation is not too difficult. It can be used again with new students, and the actual time it takes to administer the assessment or just the strategy or practice is not very time consuming. Although there should be no time limit on students, it's just a very straightforward assessment. It also measures specific skills, so it doesn't try to measure every single area in reading that's important to emphasize. It's mainly getting at comprehension and knowledge of semantic and syntactic clues. It can also help students develop in their vocabulary. So those are some great things about this assessment. Some weaknesses that can be found in this strategy include that if a student is not familiar with this strategy, they will need to be taught how to fill in the blanks, or else their results may not be accurate to what they're really capable of. It also doesn't automatically teach students, so these skills need to be supported through guidance. And this is an assessment or an evaluation that should be used with other evaluations, so it does not serve as a sole assessment for reading skills. The text has to be new. That's another weakness or maybe a challenge. The passages should be carefully chosen, meticulously selected. It does not work well with poorly written passages, so we have to be careful about what kind of text we're choosing to use in this strategy. Also, students who are challenged with writing may not be able to demonstrate their true ability with this evaluation, so it might not be an accurate assessment of their skills if they are unable to spell correctly. And here are my references that I used to synthesize my paper and to write this presentation and talk about it. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.